on the Bear Committee meetings held in Reno. And the Commission may take action to provide guidance to the Department regarding amendments to the Bear Hunting Regulation, Commission General Regulation 393. And I want to, at this point, thank the members of the Bear Committee, and obviously everybody else that is attending the meetings, and the public, and they have been 2 marathon meetings. I think you've got a total of 9 hours on these 2 meetings. So obviously we've gotten a great amount of public input, and so anyway, that's good. That's what we're trying to do. So Commissioner McNinch, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give a little bit of background on what prompted us, what got us to where we're at. If everybody recalls, at our commission meeting in Las Vegas in February, there was an item on the table that dealt with the hunt units and season dates. A couple of other miscellaneous items were on the table, and at that meeting it was decided and voted on by the commission to defer deciding what hunt units would be open to hunting for the bear hunt until the bear subcommittee could convene, have a meeting, and get some input. February 29th, we had our first meeting here in Reno. It was about 5 hours long. It was very productive. It was productive in the sense that everybody stayed with it. Okay, it was a very long night, very long afternoon, early afternoon or into the evening, and I guess that our progress, you would classify it as small but positive, in the sense that there were some items put on the table through motions, predominantly having to do with providing some options to throw out to the cabs and to the public for consideration and for input. The original intent was to do that and allow the cabs to review it, the public to review it, provide comment, and then take those and blend them here at the commission level to make a decision today or tomorrow. As we went through the meeting, it was pretty clear that we were going to need to do an additional meeting sometime after the cabs and prior to the commission meeting, which gave us about a 1-day window, which was last night, March 22nd. So we had a second meeting of the committee, and during the committee meeting, we again discussed the alternatives. We can get into those in just a moment. I'll ask Commissioner Drew and Commissioner Robb to help me out with those a little bit. And after some rather lengthy discussion last night and an awful lot of input and discussion with the audience, we did have some motions on the table. The first motion failed for lack of a second. There was, as you might imagine, general support from a lot of the cabs. I don't know that there was an exception, and from a lot of the sportsmen to stick with alternative 1, which is no change from the previous year. Alternative 2, which had to do with Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, didn't get a lot of discussion. Alternative 3, there was some interest by the committee members for alternative 3, which had to do with defining congested areas and taking combinations of some work that Commissioner Robb had done with members of the public. Okay, and alternative 4 had to do with restricting hunts inside the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit and some areas that incorporated some stuff that Commissioner Robb had done in alternative 3. I don't know how else to explain that at the time being for purposes of getting started. During the commission meeting, it was pretty clear early on we were going to have a pretty split vote. There were a couple people that were in favor of alternate 4, one that favored alternate 1, and a couple that favored alternate 3. And ultimately, the committee did approve on a 3-2 vote to present alternative 4 to the commission for consideration today. And alternative 4 largely limits hunting to areas outside of that basin, outside of the Tahoe Basin. And there's an awful lot of reasons for it. It was like I said, it was a very lengthy discussion. There's no doubt it is an incredibly emotionally charged issue for everybody. And the audience was very respectful and very civil last night, and I didn't get a chance to thank everybody for that. It's tough to sit in those meetings and hold it together the way everybody did, and I do appreciate that. So with that, I'll ask Commissioner Rob or Commissioner Drew to help me fill in a few blanks here, if they see any.
I'd first off like to publicly recognize the job that Dave McNinch has done on the Bear and the Trapping Committee as chairing those two committees. We are in probably the two most emotionally charged issues on both those issues. And Dave's demeanor and the way he runs the meeting enables us to be productive. And I don't know anybody else. I don't know. I know I couldn't do the job that Dave has done on that with the topics we've had at hand, and I'd like to recognize that. This is an agenda item tomorrow. We've got the maps. We've got a bunch of stuff. I don't know how far you want to get into that today.
If you had anything else to add, we can. I'm sure we're going to get public comment. So,
yeah.
And the board might have, the commission might have some additional questions to get us started. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, real quick?
Yeah, the only thing that I would say, I, like Commissioner Rob, really admire and respect the job that Commissioner McNinch has done. This hasn't been an easy process. I went to the Washoe cab and the Douglas cab, and I told both of them that, as a commissioner in our NRS, it's pretty clear as to what my job is, and that job is to be consider three things when I make any decision. And one is the biology from the department, the second is the input from the cabs, and the third is the input from the public. And some people have suggested that we shouldn't even be having this discussion. And in my strong opinion, not having this discussion means I'm not doing my job. So that's where I'm coming from in terms of why we're here. I guess that kind of adds to what Dave has said. There's been some things come out, I think, since our first committee meeting that really polarized people on the outside of this issue. I echo what Commissioner McNinch has said, that people in our meetings have been very civil. They've been very good at conveying a very strong point, but in a very respectful manner. And my charge to everyone in this room tonight is to act outside of this meeting room the same way you act inside of this meeting room, because it does us no favors to make these tough decisions when things aren't based on the facts. Let your argument rest on the facts that are before you. Don't get off the tracks and go places we don't need to go. So at this point, that's where we are. I welcome any discussion.
And before we move on, Mr. Chairman, if I could add one more thing real quick. I think it's really important to note that I don't want anybody to assume that any progress that we make with these maps and any decisions, we've had a lot of discussion of core value issues. These run very deep. People have very strong feelings about it, more than, oh yeah, I can take that, I can give this, it goes way beyond that. And we've had a lot of discussions in our meetings about not expecting people to come off their core value. Some people don't want bear hunting, period. They don't care what you do to it. There are people that want to preserve the opportunity to hunt, and it's not fair to expect either group to come off that core. So inherently, we're going to end up in a situation where it's not likely we're gonna solve all the problems and have everybody happy. And that's difficult, but it's reality. It's just the way it is. We got to find some of those common issues that we can come to some consensus on. And I think what I want everybody to understand is that just because we were talking about some of these alternatives, even people on the committee, I don't think for 1 minute that's tacit approval for moving forward with the hunt in their mind. Okay, there are still people. We will hear from people today that even though we're talking about open hunt units here, there are people that still are adamantly opposed to the hunt, and we have to recognize that we're talking about something involving a hunt, and there are people that don't even want it to get to that phase. So we have to keep those things in mind. it's a very complex issue. A lot of people, a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different angles, a lot of things involved. So with that, if anybody has any questions on the commission here.
Just
Commissioner Rain?
thank you. This question I'd like to ask of basically all the committee members, if and I think Commissioner Drew kind of touched on some, is if you could explain why you made the decision you did, based upon what? I mean, you kind of explained it some based upon those three things. So what came out of this meeting that I didn't see because I wasn't there that maybe made you come up with that decision?
That's a tough one.
And you especially, sir.
Me
Mr.
especially.
Chairman, Mr.
Okay,
Committee Chairman.
yeah. Well, I can tell you, during the committee meeting, we're left with receiving input from a lot of different sources, a lot of different people. And I made the comment that for lack of some kind of consensus coming forward to us, that the people that are interested in this issue are leaving it up to us to make decisions, because we're not hearing consensus. We're not having something come to the table that everybody's in agreement on. So what it boils down to is, this is a personal, and I suspect a lot of people would agree in some respect, what it boils down to is that I receive input from everybody that comes to the table, all the emails that I get, and I make a decision based on what I believe to be the right thing to do. Okay? Last night, I had a hard time putting my finger on exactly why I felt alternate 4 was the better alternate. Okay? I've said it before, and I think it was a lot less of an issue last night. I won't understate that intentionally. I don't know that I don't believe that it's as big a public safety issue, but I do believe that there's a balance that has to be struck. Okay, and I believe that the potential is there for conflict, and that we have a need to manage that. Okay, we're dealing with an urban interface issue, and we've got an urban interface hunting issue. It won't be the last one we see. We're going to see more of them. And I felt, for me personally, that there was a need to manage that. Okay. Later on, there was a comment made during the meeting that maybe put it a little more in perspective for me on why I felt that way. I just didn't have words for it. And what it boiled down to was, if alternate 4 had been proposed as part of this process at the beginning of last year, as part of this whole instituting a bear hunt, it probably would have been considered as an appropriate compromise by a lot of people involved. And that really did put it in. So right now, going back to that seems like we're taking something away. But had it been done in the first place, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. There might have been some level of acceptance that we don't have today. And because of that, I think that's where I'm at. I don't believe that alternate 4 is giving up a lot. I think it maintains for the sportsman an opportunity to hunt and to have the opportunity to hunt a species, provided that the numbers are there, because I don't know, we haven't decided that yet. But at the same time, it recognizes that there's a public out there, and don't misunderstand. There's certainly going to be people that are anti-hunting. I think we'd be making a huge mistake if we thought that this movement in general was an anti-hunting issue. It's an anti-bear hunting issue, and I think that's pretty clear. It seems pretty clear in my mind, and I think that you'll hear some of that today. So I don't know. Does that answer in part?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give some of the discussion that I gave last night, and I'll make it clear that my recommendation was for alternative 3, and I actually voted against alternative 4. And in my reasoning for it is, I'll just step through kind of my thought process. Number one, from a biological standpoint, I don't think there's anything on these maps that dictates biology one way or the other. To me, it comes down to purely a social discussion. You look at the cabs, and I think the cabs were unanimous in support of option 1, alternative 1. And for me, that would probably be the easy decision for me to make. I told the cabs that I would be receptive to them, that I'd listen to them and take their input into consideration. And so for me to not go along with that means that I have a pretty strong opinion on on this issue. And that doesn't mean just because I disagree with where the cabs are at, that I'm not listening. I want to make that very clear. And I had this discussion with Ms. Bricker last night. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I'm not listening to you. All right? So let's be clear on that. In terms of the public input and things we've received, I would say the majority, I don't know if I'd say the vast majority, but the majority of folks would like to see alternative 4. I think that's pretty clear cut. And so when I have one part of the decision that I need to base things on that's kind of taken out of the equation, and I've got 2 others that are split, it really comes down to me as a sportsman, what's the best option for the long-term sustainability of a hunt that I feel is biologically sound in the broader context. And to me, that's option 3, and I'll tell you why. When I first got on this commission, I said we had a major communication problem. That involved the commission, the cabs, the department, and the individual sportsmen. I think we've bridged a lot of that issue. But leadership is not having a hunt and telling the department, we highly suggest you go to the indoctrination class and recommend sportsmen not to be in these areas. You put me here to make these tough decisions. It's not here to rubber stamp the easy ones. And personally, if I had a bear tag as a sportsman, or if I had a good friend that had a tag as a sportsman, or even a family member, those areas on map 3, frankly, I would tell them, don't be in there. Don't go there. There's too much at stake. There's too much emotion involved with this. You're putting yourself in a bad position. You're putting our community in a bad position. I know sportsmen are ethical people. I know they're very good people, but mistakes happen. People have lapses in judgment. I went to the indoctrination class that NDOW put on. They did a wonderful job with it. Yet, we still had an individual with a lapse in judgment. And that poor individual will never live that down the rest of his life. So I'm not willing to go there. I know I'm going to take a lot of heat for it, but when you're trying to lead the way and do something that you feel in your heart of hearts is right, that's where I'm at, and that's why I supported option 3.
Oh. Since Dave told you what the vote count was, and Jeremy said he was option 3 and didn't vote for 4, that puts number 4 on me. So I was going to talk about a lot of this tomorrow, but we're there now. So at the beginning of this week, I went to a human bear conflict workshop in Missoula, Montana. And my intent in going there was to come home with a silver bullet that I could bring in to everybody and say, hey, I found an answer. We can all go home happy. There is no answer. Not every state, but more states than not are having this same type of discussion. Same type of passions are coming out. You know, and some things that really hit home to me was late in the discussion, towards the end of my time being at the conference, there was 2 individuals giving a presentation, and they were not bear people. They were ex-media people that had gone into a public relations type firm and doing some work like that. And what it comes down to is no matter how many facts you give people, it's human nature to dispel facts given to you if it's outside your core value. And just a week before, I was thinking, boy, if I could take Catherine up on the Tahoe Rim Trail, show her how hunters operate, spend some time with her, you know, take her off the trail, show her how we glass, show her the way we go about the way we do things. Maybe I could convince her. But when they start talking about core values and people don't waver from their core values, I think I could go for 1,000 walks. I said that last night, and I don't think Catherine could convince me not to hunt, and I don't think I could convince her that bear hunting was the right thing. It's just not going to happen. I brought up last night the fact of peer pressure. I'm a hunter. It is not a hobby of mine, it's a passion of mine. And that passion gives me my core values. But I also have to look at other core values that I was raised with. And protecting hunting is a core value, but doing the right thing was instilled in me longer than hunting. So I'm trying to look for the right thing and trying to figure out, when you're talking about core values and your values, maybe you need to step back sometime and look at other people's core values and figure out where they're at to come up with the right answer. When it comes down to the maps, in Vegas, when we tabled this item, when the option of inside the Tahoe Rim Trail and outside the Tahoe Rim Trail was given down in Las Vegas, I looked at that map and thought, good start, but I don't think it hit it. In my mind, it took out an area between Kingsbury Grade and Spooner Summit that I thought was very huntable by ethical sportsmen. But it still left in there the Mount Rose Highway, Galena Park, that type of high use area that I thought, well, maybe that missed the mark. So when we tabled that item down in Las Vegas, I thought, well, maybe we could come up with a better map. And I got with Larry Johnson, Mike Smith in Jeremy Drew's office, and I had in my head what map 3 should look like. It hadn't been named map 3 at the time, but I had in my mind what I thought it was, and that was basically what Jeremy Drew just said, an outline of where I thought a hunter should be and where a hunter shouldn't be. And that's what map 3 comes down to. Last night, I went with map 4. I believe in map 3. I believe it's not a safety issue, but I worry about the future of my sport. My decision last night was based upon the future of my sport. It seems like we're driving a school bus up here. I've used this a couple times now, and all my friends are in the back yelling, go, go, go. And what I mean by friends is the hunters, and they're my friends. And I see this gap in front of us. We're going to try to jump this school bus across the gap, and they're behind me cheering me on. And I'm really worried if we can make that other side. And that other side is a brick wall running into the legislature if we don't clear it. And I truly believe that wildlife regulation, rules, management belong in this room and not in Carson City. So with that in mind, I want to avoid Carson City. I want to show reasonableness of this board that sometimes has not been shown in the past few years. And if we're not reasonable, we do end up in Carson City. And every time we end up in Carson City and they're managing wildlife, we're not doing our job. So I want to do my job. I'm not here to win any popularity contests. I'm here to do what I think's right. The gentleman that appointed me on this board knows that I will make tough decisions and do what I think's right. And that's why I went with number 4 last night.
Commissioner Howell?
Mr. Chairman, it says here for possible action, and then I see where we're going to possibly vote on it again tomorrow. But what, are we going to vote on anything today?
No.
I think for possible action was just in case that we had, we wanted to take an action with regard to the report, but
We're going to vote tomorrow then?
Yeah, the action item, the main action item is tomorrow.
Okay.
That's the regulation we're voting on, but, in the event that we needed to do something, but I don't anticipate at this point needing to have a motion. Do you, Commissioner McNinch?
We discussed, not me with you, but, the 2 agenda items, and I took the primary one for that. The one where we would take action would be tomorrow, and that this would just be an opportunity for the commission to provide, an input. There was just an opportunity to get everybody up to speed and talk prior to getting to tomorrow. It's not necessary to take it today.
I was ready to make a motion if we were going to do that.
Oh, no, no motion. Anybody else? Before I ask, go ahead.
I guess the only other point that I would make, and I made this at Washoe and Douglas Cab as well, this is a temporary regulation specific to black bear. And I've heard a lot of people say, black bear today, everything else tomorrow. That's a non-starter with me. There is no other issue like this. And if you think there is, you haven't been watching the paper or you haven't been in this room for the last 15, 18 months. So I just want to make that very clear, that that was also part of what went into my decision last night.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me just tell you from my perspective, what I'm struggling with is, first of all, I'm from Las Vegas, and obviously, the same issue that some of the guys on the trapping committee had with trying to understand some of the areas down south. They just had no experience, no clue, what the geography looked like. And so when I, look at this map, I'm trying to get a grasp on, do I just assume that the areas that in alternative 3 are high conflict, high areas that have a high potential for conflict? And alternative 4 obviously takes out all the basin, and that sounds like it's more of a strategic type decision, adding all the rest of the areas in. And so it might be helpful. And I look around on the board and I see that, Commissioner Wallace and Commissioner Morai and Commissioner Raines and Commissioner, Howell and Commissioner Schrum don't necessarily come from this Tahoe Basin area or have any, maybe don't have any experience with it. Maybe you guys do, I don't. And so, but for myself, it would be a little helpful if we had some general description of all of this, the maps and the detail of what it is that's there that is causing the concern, for conflict, for the potential conflict. That would probably be helpful. I want to know, how much potential for conflict is it, and so I can gauge what the real issue is.
If there's a way to bring that up on a PowerPoint, we could, not a PowerPoint, but we could go over map by map. I was there during the creation of the map, and maybe that could help you out. We could hit.
Do you have the same concerns?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, because I had all these questions, the same questions in my mind, and I attended the meeting last night, and from what I could see on the map, and maybe the committee could clear it up for me also, is that the difference between 3 and 4 is the one area in 192.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, because here are the comments that I heard. When the comments were for either alternative 1 or alternative 4. No comments basically from the public in favor of 2 and 3. So then it comes back to the committee, and the committee starts contemplating these different alternatives of like 2 and 3s. They're being discussed. Then there was a comment from one of the committee members that said, hey, we told you that if we didn't have it was number 4 is our choice. We would, since we told you that, we would be better off with alternative number 1 than number 3. And that's at the time when the committee was discussing as to what to do with number 3. And I'm trying to look at these maps, and I'm thinking, okay, if there's just that difference right there, it must be significant in the eyes of the people that wanted alternative number 4. So I'm very happy that you brought that up, because I was kind of fogged in as to how that.
I can address some of those. In terms of 194, if you look at the map, Probably the map, either 3 or 4 would be best to look at. And Jack, you can fill me
Well,
in
all I have is this big one. Is there,
if I'm missing something. In 194, the areas that are in blue are basically the congested zones as defined by either Carson City or Washoe County. And essentially, that's a 5,000-foot offset from a residence. And so that's what you're seeing. The purple is Nevada State Park, which in the basin is closed to hunting. And then Little Valley, which sits just outside the basin, is owned by the university, and there's no hunting allowed in that area either. The Tahoe Rim Trail runs approximately where the red line on the map is that you see, and that is actually the Lake Tahoe management unit of the Forest Service rather than the trail. But the trail runs pretty close to that. I can tell you that in those areas of orange, in between the 2 blue congested zones and Little Valley, that's the Mount Rose Meadows area, and the Tahoe Rim Trail also runs through that area. So I've spent a lot of time up there working, recreating, just generally enjoying, and I can tell you there's a ton of people in that area. Like I said, personally as a hunter, if I had a bear tag, I would not be in that orange area in between the blue zones. Again, the rest of 194, basically there's some real small pieces of orange in there in between either state park or congested zones. Again, I don't think I'd be playing the boundary game if I were the guy on the ground. In terms of 192, the purple areas are those defined by Douglas County as congested zones. In Douglas County, it's important to point out that they only have a 1,500-foot offset, and that's for all firearms. That area in the southern portion of 192 that's orange is primarily right behind South Lake Tahoe, the casinos. The gondola for Heavenly runs in that area. Again, not an area that I as a hunter would go to. The area that's in dispute that Commissioner Morai asked about essentially runs between Kingsbury Grade and Spooner Summit. And I'm not going to try and convey the message of the folks who are opposed to this area. I'm sure they'll do that on their own. But in terms of the discussion last night, their feeling was if you went with alternative 3, that a lot of sportsmen would focus on that portion of the basin that's open. So those guys that are displaced from hunting in other portions of 192 and 194 would relocate and hunt in that area. The Tahoe Rim Trail does go through that area. There is a lot of use in that portion of the basin, or that portion of the trail. And at the same time, in my estimation, again, from being there, I haven't hunted there myself, but I've been in that area. There's a lot of use, but there's a lot of open space as well. It's pretty heavily timbered. A lot of folks use that portion of the unit to access the non-basin side of the unit. And so that's kind of my assessment, or at least my thinking in terms of the difference between maps 3 and 4. But I'm sure Catherine, and hopefully I think she's here today, can discuss what their concern was in terms of that portion of 192 that Commissioner Morai asked about.
And another thing, Jeremy brought it up, and that was one of the things in my thought process last night. In 192, Douglas County only has that 1,500-foot setback. If they had the Washoe County 5,000-foot setback, it almost gets you up to the rim anyways. You know, if they had different rules down there in Washoe County, which we were used to in Carson and Washoe County, it would have been closed anyways. And, you know, 1,500 feet from a residence, we're getting close at that point.
Just to add one more piece of information to it, and I think Mike Turnipseed's here, but at the Douglas County Advisory Board meeting that I attended earlier in the week, their vote was split 3-2. Essentially, there were 3 people advocating for alternative 1 and 2 people advocating for alternative 4. And at least one of the folks who's advocating for alternative 4 basically said what Commissioner Robb did, that he didn't feel the 1,500-foot offset was sufficient. And that was his primary reason for supporting alternative 4.
Okay, Commissioner Drew, tough question. You chose 3. And so you had no problem in hunting in the portion of 192, even though there was the 1,500-foot offset?
I wouldn't be reluctant to be in there on a spot and stock. I don't know about dogs because I've never hunted with them. Again, if I had a tag under alternative 3, I'd probably choose a lot of the other areas that are open. I mean, we're looking at, Ken, I don't know what the total hunt area is, but this is a huge area. It's not just the Tahoe Basin, and that's part of my disagreement with Ms. Bricker. But again, I reserve her comments for her. I don't want to speak for her. But, you know, if I had a tag under alternative 3 conditions, in my opinion, I'd probably hunt in a lot of different spots before I'd hunt in that area. But again, spot and stock, I wouldn't have a problem being in that unit.
And my original thought process with map number 3 was in the future to have 192 as a spot and stock only hunt. Not a public safety issue with dogs, not any type of ethical issue with dogs, but I just didn't know how well it fit in up there. I talked to multiple houndsmen, and then when I was at the bear conference at the beginning of the week, I asked multiple states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, New Jersey, if they allowed hounding, because they hunt in close proximity to residents, and none of them do. And I asked if it was because of social issues, laws, what it came down to. And what it came down to was a trespass issue when you're in and amongst residents. What was told directly to me was, as soon as the hunter lets the dogs out, the hunter is no longer in control of the dogs, the bear is. And if that bear is running through yards and trees in somebody's yard, you have a trespass issue at that point. And that was a big bone of contention in some of these states, the trespass issue with people trying to use dogs. And that was my main concern in 192 when I thought up map number 3, was I know that if number 3 passes, I hope an indoctrination really discourages the use of dogs up and around that area, because just in a couple miles you're in Glenbrook, the house is off of Kingsbury Grade, or down in Jacks Valley in Genoa in people's backyards. And that does no good for the sport that I'm trying to represent at all. So that's my main concern with 192. I would be very uncomfortable with voting for map number 3, knowing that we could still use hounds in there. It wouldn't be against the law. You can discourage somebody from doing something, but that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen.
Another question, Mr. Rob, are there houses, are there residences along?
That's why there is that setback. There is residence along, there is some private property along the highway. It's pretty much residence that whole way along there.
Yeah.
Catherine actually lives up there. Maybe, can we bring since Catherine's on the committee, maybe we could ask her some questions.
Well, I mean, I just want to understand what's there, and I see the setbacks on the map, and I just want to know what it was that we were and so it sounds like it's personal residences.
Yeah, you really don't ever get a half-mile stretch along the highway there that there is not a personal residence.
That's correct.
Or like Logan Shoals, Vista Point, that
No, it's solid.
it's pretty.
Yeah, and the leg of the rim trail included there has the highest density usage of any of the legs of the rim trail in Nevada. It has the crossing of the dirt roads.
Hold on. Could you come up and start over and repeat it? State your name for the record. Just
Catherine Bricker. I'm a member of the Bear Committee. I think pertinent information for you to consider that would fill in some of why Mr. Morey said that the public said that they felt they'd be better off with option 1 than option 4, that they strongly opposed option 3, is because we feel it has great user conflict problems. Among the fact of what you just said about the number of residences, that they're just nonstop through there, that particular portion of the rim trail that would be included Mr. Lackey did not present that data. He picked the one that had the lowest, which is already out of the hunt zone because it's in Nevada State Park. But that particular, it's a 12-mile leg of the rim trail. The data from the Rim Trail Association that is on your website will show that it has the highest density of usage of any of the rim trail segments in Nevada, and it has the third highest in the entire basin. Secondly, the Forest Service roads intersect the rim trail in a few places, and I interviewed the rim trail guides, and I would like to say the Rim Trail Association is neutral on this issue, and they have not taken a position, but I felt who better to say what happens in that portion of the rim trail than the rim trail guides. They take all of the tourists from all over the world who come there to hike the rim trail, and they say they routinely see people in all-terrain mechanized vehicles on the rim trail illegally, thinking they are on one of those Forest Service roads and lost because it is just, there's not good signage. It's difficult to tell where you are, and they intersect often. The Rim Trail also promotes taking those dirt roads off and up to Genoa Peak and that sort of thing. So I just think the density of usage up there, the confusion of the signs, the fact that the reports we get make it among the worst choices of where to conduct a hunt.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Catherine brought up a point that amongst the roads up there, and that was one of the reasons I felt comfortable with map number 3 is the hunting public would not have to use the roads or the Tahoe Rim Trail to access this portion. They intersect each other a couple times, but they run a quarter mile apart. So there's a road that goes from Kingsbury to Spooner that the gate is open up into November. So I thought we may minimize some user group conflict if we went with map 3, because the hunters, they're not going to walk 4 miles in on the trail to pack an animal out 4 miles. They're going to drive that 4 miles in and try to get as close as they can to where they're hunting, and there is road access that will allow that. That's why I felt good about 3, is they wouldn't be using the trail. So it sounds like I'm advocating for both. I believe in map 3. But,
Mr. Rain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm somewhat familiar with this area. I did just talk about not knowing the area. I mean, I can't say I've ever walked the whole Washington Trail. I know I've walked from an apartment a couple blocks from here once back in college. I ended up for day hike. I ended up in Crystal Bay about 3 days later. But I've been known to be somewhat vagrant in my meandering, shall we say. Cross over the mountain range time to time. And maybe the Tahoe Rim Trail is more easily defined on that trip, or my one from the lake down to Washoe Valley once. Just kind of wandering around. I never did find what I thought was the Rim Trail. I'm sure it was one of many things one passed. I'm thinking maybe it's changed since that. I mean, I was back in college. It's been a few days since then. How well marked is this for the hunters wandering out in the woods? I mean, we like to do things on paved roads or main dirt roads so that there is no confusion and you can give a guy a ticket because, hey, any guy knows to go on that side of the yellow line. How well defined is this? I mean, I've walked a couple pieces of it, and over in California, just, the half-mile stuff with trailhead, and it seems like quite a bit there. But back up in the hinterlands, what is it? That, and, we're talking about hounds, and one thing I know about hounds is there's a couple people in the room that know a whole lot more about me than hounds, and I'd kind of like to hear from Mr. Hodson, Mr. Strain, guys that, know a lot about hounds. Hey, I know this much about control hounds. I'd like to hear from them a little bit at some point in this process. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate all of the explanation. That helps me out. Are you you got a handle on it?
I feel better about it.
Everybody? Okay. I think that's really helpful. Well, obviously, we've got some tough decisions to make. As you'll hear from me on the trapping issue, I'm real big on this user group conflict issue. But at the same time, I'm also real big on hunters being able to hunt on public land. But I think the one thing that Vice Chairman Robb touched upon that is going to probably be the deal killer for me is this issue of where we're going. If anybody in this room doesn't think that we're going to end up in the 2013 legislature with this issue, is a fool, because that's where we're going. No matter what we do here today, no matter if it's option 1, 2, 3, or 4, we're going. And so we, as sportsmen, and I'm talking specifically about sportsmen, have to think long and hard about our position here and how it's going to not be perceived by other sportsmen, but how it's going to be, and not how it's going to be perceived by, the bear advocates. What we need to be thinking about as sportsmen is how we are going to be perceived in front of John Q. Public, who's represented by the legislature. That's who we need to be talking, that's who we need to be concerned about. Because if we are perceived to be unreasonable and not listening, we're going to get crucified. That's my belief. And so this is bigger than an issue of just hunting versus non-hunting of bears in this area, in my opinion. And once we go past the hunting issue and we start dealing with wildlife commissioners who don't listen, then we start getting into issues of what should the makeup of the commission be. And I've already seen it. I already know that's where we're going. It's going to be addressed in the legislature. It's going to be addressed not only as to the commission, but also to the county advisory boards. We're going to be there. We're going to be having these discussions. And so it is beyond the issue of hunting for us. And we need to really think what we should be doing when we go, because we're going to be looking people in the face who don't hunt. They may not be bear advocates, and they're not going to be hunters. They're going to be John Q. Public who want to know that we are reasonable. And that's the way I look at this. That's the deal breaker. That's what causes me to, do something that I've done very rarely on this commission, and that is not support a unanimous cab vote or a unanimous commission vote. That is going to be it for me. I know where I'm leaning right now. I'm going to wait until tomorrow. I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to go have some wine tonight.
I'll buy an extra bottle.
I'm going to think long and hard about it, but that's where it is for me. And I hope everybody understands. I really do believe we've got a huge hunt area. And I listened to what Jeremy says, that he'd do spot and stalk in just this one area. I'm a wilderness hunter. I don't know if I could do it. Now, I do realize that my constituents aren't all wilderness hunters, and so I have to respect that a lot of people might hunt in these areas. But I ask myself, why do we want to go there? Why do we want to do this? I sense that we as sportsmen dig in our heels, just like the bear advocates have dug in their heels, and we're polarized on two sides of an issue. Nobody's going to move. It's like a duel. But I'm telling the sportsmen that we really do need to think long and hard about this. I hope I have the sportsman's respect for the 4 years that I've been here, to know how I work through these issues and how I think. I am absolutely pro-sportsman and hunter, and you know that. But I can see a losing proposition in this. And I hope you guys understand that, this could be a gateway to things coming down the road that we don't want to happen. So let's be reasonable and think about what our position is. And when this commission makes a decision, and I have no clue, based on what I've heard here, where it's going to go, but no matter what it is, I would hope that you respect, the vote and where everybody comes down. So with that, let's take some public comment. Anybody else have any other comments? Want to follow up anything I've said? On the commission?
I'm sure I'll have plenty to say tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, let's do public comment.
Bob Bruner.
For the record, Bob Renner speaking for myself. I would like to support option number one. And I'd like to support option number one because we didn't have conflicts. We didn't have dogs running through neighborhoods. We didn't have all these things because that's what was taught in the training class. That's what enforcement is enforced. That's what department rolled out, and that's what hunters do. Okay, we know what the rules are. All of the local laws were covered. All the areas you can hunt. All the conflict areas. Everything was spelled out. So we didn't have any problems last year with a full dog hunt and everything else on purpose. Okay? So this is about rights. Hikers are a small population of the total population. Okay? They control themselves, they police themselves, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we're a small portion of the public too. And we have rights. Okay? So the question is, are you going to take away my rights to public land when all of these fears have become unfounded?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and this is always a very emotional issue on both sides. And what I'm going to ask, I should have said this before we started public comment, but what I'm going to ask is that we allow people to come up and make comment, and that we have no clapping, no response, and respect everybody's views on both sides. And so let's just kind of maintain a little decorum here, and keep it civil, please.
Lisa Bonta.
My name is Lisa Bonta. I'm representing the Northern Nevada Paiute Nation, the Numa people. I am an active member of the American Indian Movement and the chapter director of the Leonard Peltier Defense Offense Committee. We hold bears as our brothers and sisters. We hold religious ceremonies, when we celebrate our pine nut harvest, that involve the bear dances. The bears are as sacred to us as the Bible is to the Christians, the Quran to the Islams, and the U.S. flag to the European settlers in this nation. The bears possess the power of strength and healing for our people. The killing of the bears is senseless and very offensive and disrespectful to our people. We do not support the killing of the bears on any point made by the committee, and we do not, as a nation of Native Americans, support killing of wildlife as a sport. We are not here today to act as a threat in taking away any of your rights to hunt as a committee and others as they seem to think, as they express in their comments. I find it interesting that the board is made up of active hunters that hunt for sport, and there's no Native Americans representatives that sit on the board. We are asking for a recall of all board members, as this does not present a democracy. We have the backing of the union members for the preservation of wildlife, the No Bear Hunt members, the members of Greenpeace, Trail Safe Nevada, the Bear League, and many other organizations and Native nations. There has been no bear hunt for 82 years. This state survives on tourism, and you are killing our wildlife. You are trying to appease 1% of the minority when 99% of the public oppose the killing of the bears and our wild horses and burros. You are going to sacrifice millions of tourist dollars using ill-advised and rash decisions to appease corporate America, specifically ranching and sporting hunting interests. When the law no longer represents the will of the people, then there is no law. and we have the right to take the law back. I offer a word of advice to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and all appointed and elected officials. This is an election year, and if you wish to stay in office, then open your ears to the people, the majority that oppose the bear hunt. If you turn your back, then you leave us no choice but to vote you out of office. We as Native Americans believe that this bear hunt is based on money, power, and greed. We do not support any points, and we will not allow our bears to be killed. Go home.
Don Moldy.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Don Moldy, Reno, couldn't I have been last? No, I'm kidding. I'm speechless. Not really. I haven't seen the kind of wisdom dispensed from the commission side of things as some of you have done today in 35 years. And I commend you for the kind of thinking that I believe is the exact manner of thinking about things that we need to go forward in this process. And I, for one, also agree with you that I'm not sure the legislature is the best place to manage wildlife. That's I agree with you in that regard, although I may make an exception for trapping reform, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, I do, support option 4 since I support the no bear hunt Nevada position. But what I would like to do is this. Even though I understand he took my name in vain last night, I thought that Dr. Lent's comments last night were some of the best that I've heard in a long time. And if I could translate his comments into my words, I think that he said to the committee, why don't we do a little horse trading? Let's not make it my way or the highway. Let's go for option 4, and let's see if we can get a deal with the bear people. Let's see if we can get their support on trash containers that would help the issue out in Tahoe. Let's see if we can get some support on public education stuff and the rest of it. And to me, that's one of the most sensible things. And I was sort of saying, why couldn't I have said something like that? I thought that was terrific. So I'm glad that we're on this track. It's a very pleasant tone this afternoon for a change. I commend you again on your manner of thinking about this, and let's keep it going. Thank you.
Raquel Arthur.
Raquel Arthur, President of American Indian Movement of Northern Nevada. As a Native American, we consider bears as a religious symbol of healing. Many tribes in Nevada honor our bears. That's why we have special dance such as the bear dance. We respect our bears and will stand up and fight peacefully for the rights of our bears to remain balanced with Mother Earth. We as people, in fact all people, should be respectful to other people's beliefs. We're not trying to take the hunting rights away from the law-abiding citizens. We're strictly here for the bears, for the bear hunt. In fact, many Nevadans oppose this hunt and will continue to oppose this hunt. We all have purpose, each of us, you and I, we have purpose. The Creator gave us all purpose. The bears have purpose as well. We have choices today to make, each of us, will be affected if we do not choose to fight for these bears. These bears are sacred. I myself have been a spiritual, as a child, I went to spiritual ceremonies throughout my whole life. When I talk and when I speak to remain balanced with Mother Earth, the best way I could explain this is we all have relationships with each other, with our spouses, with our children, with our friends. It is a give and take on that. Well, we also have a relationship with the earth, and it needs to be a give and take as well. When the Native Americans hunted, we hunted what we needed as food, as shelter, as clothing. But with our hunts, we had ceremonies, and we gave back to our earth an offering to our Mother Earth. And that was our way of giving back and praying. Mother Earth will eventually start taking back what we have took from her. And that's what I'm talking about, the imbalance of the world. And when the Mother Earth takes back, she takes back with hurricanes and fires, earthquakes. That's how she takes. I myself served as a United States Marine for 4 years. I was stationed in Bosnia. I believe in killing for self-defense,
15 seconds.
for protecting yourself, protecting others, and defending your nation. I believe all life is sacred and all life is precious. Thanks.
Thank you.
Gerald Lent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerry Lent for the record. I testified at the committee meeting last night, and I want to congratulate the committee on their wisdom and decision. And we proposed this bear hunt when I was on the commission, and I didn't think there'd be this much opposition. Like some commissioners said last night, if we never proposed it for the Tahoe Basin, opposition would not be here today. I suggested we need to compromise. As in all legislation, you give and take. And I suggested alternate 4. Take the hunt out of the Lake Tahoe Basin. 3 still leave some in the basin. We got a good bear season and a good one at that. And there's no complaints on that. And many, if not most of the opposition, and I was the recipient of hundreds and thousands of letters from basin people liking their neighborhood bears. They had them all named and everything. And we had a lot of opposition from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Rim Trail Association, the Merchants Association, people within the rim. And no bears were taken in the basin. We don't need to hunt them there. We have plenty of opportunities outside the basin. Johnson Lane, we're finding there's more bear outside in the Gardenville area than there is Tahoe because none of them are taken. We got a good area to hunt. Alternate 4 would take the wind out of their sails. Now, I know there's always people that are going to preach stop all bear hunting, but we will always have them. Example, we got Don Moley here. He opposes trapping and hunting every meeting. And so we're always going to have those. Now, we have laws that say hunting is recognized as a valuable asset in Nevada, and seasons can't be stopped without scientific data. And it's legislation that I organized years ago. And Nevada legislators, I don't think, will ban hunting in Nevada. I was criticized by some sportsmen last night as a hypocrite, but this is just an ego trip by these sportsmen. That is, their philosophy. There's bears out there. We have a right to hunt them, even though no one took a bear out in the Tahoe Basin last year. True, but you can be right and you can be dead right. If a car goes through an intersection, you got a green light, and somebody comes sideways against you, you're dead right. You're right, but you can be dead right. Just because you can hunt bears in the California side of the basin doesn't mean we should in Nevada. Well, how about lions? You can't hunt them in California, then the same philosophy, you shouldn't hunt them in Nevada. That's the same philosophy. So in conclusion, I recommend alternate 4. 3 will still have the complaints because you're still in the basin. And to get them out of the basin, we don't need it. And the department is suggesting this to take the heat off of them.
15 seconds.
And I thoroughly agree with that. And shows good faith in the legislature. You can say you were good guys, you listened to the public concerns, and you took it out of their backyard. And once you take it out of their backyard, the interest in the opposition will die out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Dennis Wilson.
For the record, Dennis Wilson, representing Nevada Bighorns Unlimited. The science behind the controlled bear hunt and the management goals of the Nevada Department of Wildlife have not changed. The 2011 bear hunt was successful and was well managed. Since there are no scientific or population management concerns to change the existing bear hunt regulations, Nevada Bighorns Unlimited is strongly in favor of alternative number 1. Thank you.
Stephen Bourne.
How you doing? My name is Stephen Bourne. I'm a member of the Nevada Houndsman Association, and I don't speak for all members, but I'm here to speak for myself. I have some other members here. We are strongly in favor of the alternative one. I myself personally probably would not hunt in the Tahoe Basin. That being said, hunter ethics would apply to that. My personal feelings, what I have taught my children, be that as it may. However, hunter ethics is a strong value of mine. It's a strong value of other members that I know of. And part of what could be done, I don't know, maybe some more research needs to be done, but as a hunter and a sportsman, the responsibilities and the requirements and the laws are already set forth. So that if a person follows those laws, the ethics that are involved, the problem would solve itself. However, those are individuals that have poor judgment decisions that was discussed earlier. As you can see from the maps that were presented earlier, the bears seem to travel around and move around and do whatever they feel like they do. They search for food. It's a very difficult subject to pin down and actually make a specific decision. However, I would like to thank the commission for everything that they are doing, allowing us an extra opportunity for hunting. Again, with that opportunity for hunting, it brings more revenue to not just the state, but to small businesses, and community efforts, things like that. These efforts and the revenue from that helps small business and promotes our economy in the state, in the basin, wherever it might be, little small towns. I had the opportunity to hunt this summer, past fall, with one of the members, and they had a bear tag holder. That individual was successful in his hunt, but the hunt was more to me was the advance to take my animals out, my hounds, and work them and watch them work and see what they do.
15 seconds.
Myself, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Cat Simons? Is it Craig Downer?
Hi there, my name is Craig Downer. I'm a wildlife ecologist, and as far as the bears go, I've hiked that Tahoe Rim Trail. I live over in Douglas County. Last time I was there, I saw a nearly white bear right up above the Job's Peak area. It came quite close. I thought that was quite remarkable. You'd be interested in that. Guess what you call a cremola type coloration. But I would favor keeping the bear hunt out of the basin, and not certainly not decimating the population. The bear is an important component of the ecological balance, and they're an omnivore like us, but they operate to tone a population. But the main thing I wanted to address is the treatment of the commission to one of my core values, and that's the existence of the wild horses and burros here in Nevada, as elsewhere in the West. I really think the Nevada Department of Wildlife and of Agriculture should re-examine the place of the horse and burro. And the last 4 years I've written a book on this subject.
Let me interrupt. We're on this bear issue, and so if you want to talk about horses, we have a public comment period.
Okay, well, Yeah, I'd like to address the wild horse and
Yeah,
burros
you can address the wild
later.
horses in public comment.
Okay, good. Well, I'll just say a little more about the bears. I think if there is to be hunting, it should be in a way that doesn't take the most fit bears. So more of a equal basis hunt, and not one that would certainly not overly harvest or take the most fit. But I wouldn't favor it there in the Tahoe Basin because the reason I stated.
Okay. Thank you very much.
John Reed.
I'm John Reed, Washoe Cab. Thank you for letting me speak, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I feel like the commission is appeasing what they should be opposing. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work you do and the time and the consideration that you guys put into this. But if it were about the bears, these people would be in Sacramento and Salem. They wouldn't be here. Not over 20 bears when they're going to shoot a couple grand or a couple thousand of them in other states. If it was about safety, well, I think we put that to rest. If it was about the economy, I guess if I was worried about my economy at Lake Tahoe, I wouldn't be standing on every street corner with a petition shaking up these tourists that probably aren't aware that this is even going on. So I'm obviously for alternative one, and I just feel like this is an attempt at compromise. I don't think that's going to work. I think, like the chairman said, we're going to go to the legislature anyway. And this is already thrown. You'll notice that the group here is bigger than it's been in the past. I feel like this opportunity to compromise is basically throwing a little bit of blood in the water. And now I think if you do compromise, I think you're going to be chumming for sharks. That's the way I see it. Thanks.
Rex Flowers.
Rex Flowers, representing myself. I've stayed pretty steadfast on alternative one. You know, there's conflict. You talked about user group conflict and stuff. These people can hike 12 months a year. We can hunt 3.5 or 4.5 months, from mid-August to the 1st of January. They have other times to hike, like I say. They have the opportunity to make a choice. But now, having said that, we've talked about compromise. We've talked about hunters are digging in their heels and they won't move. No bear hunt people won't move. They're digging in their heels. Well, if you give in the 4, there is no compromise. If you give in the 1, there's no compromise. People who are going for 4 that are adamantly against bear hunting are saying, well, don't do 3. You'd be better off with 1. So I'm just going to come back and say, what about 2? We've taken it out of the basin, which is originally where the department wanted to start, and is originally where the people who were against the hunt were at. The people within the basin said, we don't want hunting in the basin. So I just put it out to you. What about 2? Thank you.
Joe Blakesley.
I'll pass.
Gina Greason.
Good afternoon, Chairman Macbeth, members of the committee. My name is Gina Greason. I'm president of Nevada Voters for Animals. I'm also speaking on behalf of the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society today, since this meeting is not video conference down to Las Vegas, which I hope that we could look at in the future, because a lot of people are left out of the public comment process. Specifically on the bear hunt issue, actually, I really wanted to represent myself as Gina Q. Public. I'd like a little gender diversity in that John Q. Public. I am that Gina Q. Public. You probably would have never met me, and I've said this many times before on the record. had the bear hunt not taken place. And I'll state it for the record again to make it crystal clear. I am not a hunter, but I was not against hunting. I don't believe a lot of the folks, and I think that's been stated also by members of the commission, that it wasn't about hunting. It was about hunting the bears. But you know, I mean, kind of like with that Bobcat video, sometimes we need to thank the people that do things like that because it organizes the rest of us. I heard a comment earlier about my right to public land. Well, okay, so be on the public land. That's what we do, the non-consumptive users. But it doesn't mean you have to go kill our bears. Those bears don't just belong to the sportsmen or the hunters. Those bears belong to everybody. And I want to say that some of the speeches here by the American Indians, I applaud and echo their comments. I still believe, as I have from the day that I started attending the meetings down in Clark County, this issue was a lightning rod that probably should have never happened. And now there's all these slippery slope arguments. And I would say that to the bear people, the same thing that some sportsmen have said today. This is a slippery slope. If you agree with any one of these conditions, then they're just trying to get rid of you, and you're giving in too. So, you know, maybe they need to dig in their heels and not accept anything. The same way that the sportsmen are telling you to dig in your heels and not accept anything. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you and the bear folks, but we're going to support whatever they say. And I do find it interesting that Carl Lackey in his presentation, in those extra additional points that he added, left out the fact that the first bear was taken illegally when the man went through a class, was told he wasn't supposed to bait bears, and he did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Schwamberger. Are you representing No Bear Hunt today?
No.
Okay.
No, just myself. So I only need a minute. I could say a lot of things. I could go through the scientific arguments that we've gone through, the ethical arguments we've gone through, the published science, but I'm not going to bother with that with you. You haven't acknowledged it. But I would like to say, and I feel safe in this regard, on behalf of NoBearHuntNevada.org, we are honored and privileged to join with the Native Americans here in our fight against the bear hunt. In case you missed it, they just told you that the bears have religious significance to them. And for the members of No Bear Hunt, this bear hunt has ethical significance for us, in addition to all the other arguments that we have made over the last almost year and a half. So once again, we're privileged to be joined by the Native Americans in this fight. And I would just also say that some of you have commented that one side's going to dig in their heels, the other side's going to dig in their heels, and that's right. The real issue is that neither the Native Americans nor the members of the general public and the members of NoBearHuntNevada.org have any representation whatsoever on this commission and the county advisory boards. It's not fair, it's not and it's not democratic. Thank you.
Gil Yonick.
Gil Yannick, representing Friends of Nevada Wildlife. I sat through most of the meeting last night. We've been at different meetings with people, and everybody keeps bringing up different issues, different groups. It's fair, it's unfair. The word compromise came up quite often last night, came up today. And I think, personally, I overlooked when the department came out with their recommendations for alternative number 2. Nobody recognized that it wasn't just alternative number 2 that we're offering. They were offering a compromise. We didn't notice it. Nobody made point of it that we're doing this because of this, or at least my interpretation of what the department was offering. They never said anything. My interpretation was that it was a compromise. Give up the Tahoe Basin area to hunting. Nobody hunted there anyway. No bears were taken there during this hunt. People wanted to stay away from there. People wanted to avoid any type of conflict. And I think we're missing the boat by not looking seriously at alternative number 2. The question was asked, why do we accept compromise, or why should we compromise? Well, if we don't compromise on this issue, it's going to get nasty. We heard today, we see now it's not only ethical, it's a religious issue. Okay, what's going to come next? Membership on commission, membership on CAB membership roles. All of a sudden, all these years that CABS and the commission has been here, they never wanted to. It wasn't important. All of a sudden now, because groups are not getting their ways, they say, we'll go the political route, we'll get on the committees, we'll get on the commission, and then we'll fight from within rather than on the outside. I think this is needless waste. We've had commissions that were not in solidarity. They were pulled apart. And if this is what it's going to take, and if it gets that way, it's going to be a very unfriendly situation and a very difficult way to run a commission that's trying to do the best for everybody, the sportsmen, sportswomen, the public that uses these facilities. So I'm saying we need to take a good hard look at where we're going with this. I strongly urge for people to reconsider alternative number 2, and if both sides are willing to compromise, that's a good compromise. It's what everybody originally wanted. Stay out of the basin. Thank you.
Paul Dixon.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark Cab. You guys have already stated that all the cabs came in unanimous for one, and I'm not go there. I will say that in discussions at our cab that we had around this, and a lot of the stuff that I read really led me to promote option 1, because this commission in my cab, first and foremost for me, I mean, Jeremy said he had 3 things he had to look at. I mean, for me, I look at what is the data out there? What is the science behind why we're doing what we're doing? And the fact of the matter is that, as pointed out by others, it's not a safety issue. We haven't had one. We have other activities going on up there where horizontal release of ejectiles is occurring more frequently than vertical release of ejectiles to animals and trees, okay? We haven't had hunter conflicts. We have a lot more number of non-bear hunters up there hunting in that region. So it really comes down to ethics, as you guys have talked about, and where we're going to go in the political system. I just worry that if we start basing our decisions on ethics and moral compass trying to compromise, does this commission give up its right to start making decisions on the evidence, on the science? We've always prided ourselves on saying if the science drives us there. At one point, somebody asked, why do we have a bear hunt? A commissioner not to be named said, because we can. I don't want to get him in trouble, but the answer is we have a bear hunt because we want to manage that species and have it for perpetuity, forever. And managing any species we manage extremely well, and there are more of those critters that we manage than if we didn't manage them. And if we weren't managing the sage grouse right now and doing what we were doing, there wouldn't be sage grouse. We would have let the habitat all get fragmented, all oil, put everything in it, who cares? We manage and worry about that stuff as sportsmen, and I just want to make sure that we don't give up that right to say, what is the science that drives us to make our decisions? It's easy to work from the heart. It's easy to get torn in the heart. But once you either make a decision, if we're going to have a bear hunt, then basically base the facts of where it should be on whether or not there is science issues around having it. And I don't see any science issues that drive us not to have it in there. I see political and other things. And if this board's going to be run by politics, then we're no better than what we've claimed other boards were being. Thank you.
Ken Wellington.
For the record, Ken Wellington, Elko County. Couple things. Initially, when this came in February, our board supported the department's recommendation, basically alternative 2. The conversation at that meeting was concerns that this would be our kind of handout to the no bear hunt people to let them know that we can see and understand their issues within. If they have issues, that would be it. We would resolve it and it would be done with. When I went to the meeting in Vegas, I had 2 conversations with no bear hunt people, and both those conversations immediately said, hey, that's a great start. Or I think the other comment was, well, then we need to look over here. So it stepped outside of what we thought it was going to resolve initially. I had some, I got to tell you, I had standing room only at my meeting, and I can't say it was for bears, it was for sage grouse stuff. But they were all present for this, and everybody had input into that. I did have one letter that I received this time. It's the first letter I have received against or asking to support number 4, and that was from Kathy Smith. It was read into my record at that time. But it was a majority vote at that time. We looked at all the alternatives, and we said, if we're going to go to court, let's go to court and let's get it done with. If we have to go to the legislature, let's do it. But alternative 1 was our choice. Initially, though, however, I wanted to make you guys understand we did originally vote to support closing the rim trail in alternative 2. Thank you.
Pamela Garten.
Hello, I'm Pamela Garten from Incline Village. And like Gina Greisen, I feel like I am Jane Q. Public. I really didn't know much about the Wildlife Commission until the bear hunt. And I feel strongly that this does encompass social issues that need to be addressed by the commission. It's core values, like Commissioner Robb said, that come into play and that need to be paid attention to. The greater public is paying attention to this issue. It's gotten our attention. And we're focused on it. Many people are focused on it that maybe weren't involved in these things before, but we're learning about the process and feel it's very important for our voices to be heard and our values to be incorporated. I could say, that I'm for excluding the Tahoe Basin, but I'm really for incorporating public core values into your decision-making process. I think it's very important, and like you were saying, Chairman Macbeth, it's important for the future of wildlife management. As more people become aware, they're going to start to want to be heard. And I just hope you will continue on that track. I was very grateful to some of the words I heard from you and Commissioner Robb and Commissioner McNinch about paying attention to us. We're not experts necessarily, some of us. We're just part of the community. I'm not anti-hunting, but I am against the bear hunt for several reasons, and most of them, you're hearing over the course of time, so I won't go into that. But thank you for listening, and I hope you continue to. I think there needs to be more public involvement and more representation in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Raymond Hodson.
Raymond Hodson, for the record. I'm a Eureka cab member, but I'm speaking for the houndsman. And I would not hunt that area at all. You don't need to turn dogs loose up there. But I would approve the area, the number 4 map, if it would make everybody happy here. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I just wanted to say I'm not going to hunt in that area, and I don't think I know any houndsman that will. And like I say, I wish we could make everybody happy by approving this number 4 map, but I don't think that's going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Johnson. Your card says coalition.
Thank you. Great time to be on the commission, isn't it? Nothing like a little controversy. I think, first of all, I think regardless of decisions made here today, everybody has our respect. Tough issues and tough decisions. If I thought for an instant that compromise would keep us out of the legislature, would do anything for us, I would be at the table. We've always been incredibly reasonable. But quite frankly, there is no reason involved in this. Issue by issue has been debunked. It is our hunters' rights really against emotion is really what this comes down to. You know, Commissioner Drew on several occasions delineated his duties as reviewing the data and science, listening to the cabs, and thirdly, listening to the public input. Data has been thrown out of this discussion. It's been completely discarded because we have no conflicts between hunters and the public. The cabs have been unanimous in their decisions. So we've thrown out 2 out of the 3 criteria that supposedly guides this commission in their decisions. And in that third respect, there's as many sportsmen here today testifying as there is anti-bear hunting people. Again, if compromise would get us somewhere other than purely the appearance of rolling over, I'd be the first in line. But the opposite is kind of true. What is about to be considered here tomorrow is, I'm going to give you an example. This is like packing half of this room with creationists at a school board meeting, demanding that the science books be burned and that only creationists be taught in school. That's really is what this comes down to. That my view has to be foisted on everybody else. You may as well have a bunch of vegans coming into the city council and demanding that meat be taken off the shelves of the supermarkets. It almost makes, that much sense. You people are, or 5 of you are representatives, sportsmen representatives. And we ask you to represent us and our decisions. I think our decisions have been called out very clearly to you. Regardless of what you do tomorrow, I don't think anybody here loses our respect simply because, guys, you're in a tough spot in this. And hope you do what we feel is right, but I know in my heart that you're going to do what you feel is right. Okay? I've got to make one quick comment about the Native American representation here today, because I am Konkal Maidu. My people were hunters in the Sierras and we hunted bears, and we ate them. We used them for clothing, and we did a whole bunch of dancing around a campfire after a kill in Joyous. Our rights of manhood in the springtime revolved around challenging bears out of their dens. And guys, these were grizzly bears. Okay. I said before, I think in the last commission meeting, that in Jedediah Smith's journal,